Right now, you are probably watching this video with the luxury of at least four walls around you, a locked door, or at the very least, a pair of headphones cutting you off from the world. For modern humans, privacy is a fundamental right. In fact, it's so natural to us that we don't even stop to think about it. When we want to be alone, all we have to do is close a door and lock it behind us. Sitting on the toilet for half an hour scrolling through your phone without anyone bothering you might just be one of the greatest, most comfortable blessings the modern world has to offer. We have learned how to become completely invisible, even in the middle of massive crowds. When riding the subway, sitting on a bus, or walking down a busy street, we turn our heads away, avoid eye contact, blast our music, and retreat into our own mental fortresses. Even though we are physically there, we are essentially ghosts to the hundreds of strangers around us. No one can bother us, and no one can enter our personal space without permission. But now, let's rewind time a bit. Let's say about 30,000 years back, to a dark and primitive era when walls, doors, keys, locks, and most importantly, the very idea of having your own room hadn't even been invented yet.
During the Pleistocene epoch, in the world of our hunter-gatherer ancestors, the concept of privacy or personal space was practically non-existent. It was quite literally zero. From the day you were born to the day you died, every single second of your life unfolded right in front of the other 30 to 50 people in your tribe. Every step you took, every sound you made, every bite of food you swallowed was shared. Everyone lived completely on top of each other. But didn't these people ever just want to be left alone? How did they cope with that deeply human urge to just say, "Leave me alone for a minute," in an ancient world? Let's take a closer look at this forgotten shoulder-to-shoulder way of life. To understand the privacy battle of ancient humans, we first need to look at where they took shelter at night, those famous caves.
After spending the entire day hunting, gathering berries, and exhausting themselves, everyone gathered into one single safe area when night fell. There were no separate rooms, and there were no individual beds. There was only a shared fire and a pile of bodies lying right next to each other around it. You just had to deal with the guy to your right snoring loud enough to wake the dead. You had to endure the guy to your left rolling over in his sleep and suddenly tossing his leg over you. There was no spare room for you to go to and clear your head. If you couldn't stand someone in the tribe, sleeping within breathing distance, nose to nose with that exact person every single night, was one of the unwritten, harshest rules of ancient life. When you woke up in the morning, the situation didn't change one bit. The moment you opened your eyes, the tribe's crying babies, gossiping aunties, and uncles napping spear points were right on top of you. Your social shift started at full speed with the very first ray of light, and it didn't end until you went back to sleep at night. Anthropological research makes it crystal clear why humans lived in these larger tribes. Safety. Saying, "I'm bored, I'm going to live by myself," and moving to the next cave over was an open invitation to become a wild animal's dinner. With physical proximity being so unavoidable, social rules were shaped accordingly. For example, let's say you wanted to do something in secret. While walking during a forage, you managed to spot a sweet, delicious honeycomb without anyone noticing, and you wanted to wolf it down all by yourself without sharing it with the tribe. How exactly were you going to pull that off? Answer: you probably couldn't. Eating something on the sly was almost impossible in ancient tribes. Even if you hid behind a bush, that massive, messy hair of yours would poke out somewhere. Someone would definitely see you. And in that exact moment, you'd be branded the most selfish, untrustworthy person in the tribe. Because in hunter-gatherer societies, secrecy was usually equated with hiding something from the tribe. In other words, betrayal. The prevailing logic was that if you were hiding from the community, you were definitely plotting something behind their backs. This brings us to the most effective, most brutal social control mechanism of the ancient world: gossip. While gossip today is just tabloid entertainment for us, back then it was a literal matter of survival. Did you get into an argument with someone in the tribe? Or did you get scared during a hunt, run away, and botch a crucial move? Within 5 minutes, all 30 people knew about it, and they would talk about you directly around the campfire that night. The only way to maintain your social standing was to behave flawlessly and harmoniously in front of everyone at all times. A single wrong move meant instantly falling into the tribe's crosshairs and losing their respect. And trust me, losing respect and being ostracized in that era meant a death sentence. A human expelled from a tribe had next to zero chance of surviving more than a week alone in the wild. Therefore, giving up your privacy, your personal space, was the ultimate price paid for survival. People gladly accepted being constantly watched just to stay safe and keep breathing. Yet, this setup wasn't nearly as traumatic or suffocating for our ancestors as we might think. When anthropologists studied modern hunter-gatherer tribes, like the Juhwanzi or the Hadza, they noticed something very peculiar. These people actually didn't like being alone the way we do. On the contrary, if a person wanted to stay isolated for too long, the tribe thought they were either losing their mind or had been targeted by an evil curse. In other words, what we define today as solitude and peace was a red flag for them, a type of punishment. They didn't find peace in loneliness. They found isolation, helplessness, and terror. Still, every human occasionally needs to clear their head and be alone with their thoughts. So, how could an ancient human get some alone time without offending anyone in the tribe, without being labeled selfish, and without raising suspicion? Of course, they had their own incredibly clever, perfectly acceptable tactics. Tactic number 1, the hunting or gathering excuse. Saying, "I'm gonna go take a look. Maybe there are deer tracks further up." Or, "Let me check the berries behind that hill," was the cleanest, most legitimate way to walk away alone into the deep woods. Once you took your bow and arrow or your basket and distanced yourself from the tribe, you could completely forget about the deer. You could lie down under the shade of a tree and watch the sky for hours, finally enjoying that long-awaited silence and nature. Well, at least until a leopard snuck up behind you. The second tactic was functional focus. If you picked up a large rock and spent hours or even days knapping it to fashion a spearhead, the tribe members would see that you were performing a public service, creating an important tool for the community. They would give you your space and leave you alone. This was essentially the ancient world's version of a "do not disturb" working sign. No one wanted to break the concentration of a man working on a craft vital to the tribe's safety. The third and deepest tactic was mental isolation. If you couldn't escape physically, you escaped mentally. At night, while everyone was talking, laughing, or arguing around the fire, you could just stare at the burning flames or the moon in the sky for hours, completely hypnotizing yourself. This was ancient meditation. You would sit right there in the middle of that crowd physically, but your soul and mind would be somewhere else entirely, wandering in their own secret privacy. It's exactly like sitting at your desk today while your coworker next to you rambles on about something boring, while you stare at your computer screen and mentally teleport to a completely different universe. The human brain has been using the exact same defense mechanism to escape crowds for thousands of years. Now, let's look at the big picture and compare ourselves to our ancestors. Today, We think we have total privacy behind our locked doors and four walls. But is that really true? Our phones, the never-ending notifications, social media algorithms. The ancient human in the cave had at most 30 people around him, and he could see exactly who was looking at him. We, on the other hand, have thousands of eyes, hundreds of corporations, and a relentless stream of data invading our rooms and our beds through the internet and the devices in our pockets. Even when we lock the door and crawl into bed, we carry our tribe right there with us. The notifications don't stop, the emails don't end, and someone is constantly trying to reach us through the digital world, invading our space. The ancient human might have never been physically alone, but his mind belonged entirely, completely to him. A mind totally untamed and free, unmanipulated by algorithms, unbroken by notifications, and unexposed to advertisements. They didn't carry the stress of, I wonder what they tweeted about me, or what do I need to prepare for tomorrow morning's meeting? In the middle of physical crowds, they possessed an immense mental silence and freedom. We, conversely, are completely alone physically, but mentally, we are living in the most crowded, noisy, and occupied era in history. We have walls, but we don't have peace. Perhaps privacy isn't a physical luxury built with concrete walls after all. Maybe real personal life only begins when you can fully trust the people around you without having to wear a mask. Because when an ancient human wanted to be alone, he would step away for a bit. But when he wanted to truly live and feel safe, he would run right back to the tribe. To make sure you don't miss these strange, hidden truths of history that they forgot to teach you in school, don't forget to subscribe to Unburied and join our tribe. We'll see you next time, deep inside those dark caves. Take care of yourselves.